Have you ever wondered why, despite clearly recognizing your mistakes, you continue to repeat them? Have you sworn to change, promised yourself to avoid toxic relationships, harmful habits, or decisions that only bring devastation, yet find yourself in the same trap again? Carl Jung, the distinguished psychologist, offers an unexpected perspective. These recurring mistakes are not coincidences, but encrypted messages from the unconscious, paving the way to self-discovery. To understand this concept, it's necessary to recognize the existence of a vast inner world, comparable to the universe. Consciousness, used in everyday life, is just the tip of the iceberg. In the depths of the unconscious lies a powerful force that influences decisions and behavior, often imperceptibly to us. Jung argued that this hidden part of the psyche communicates through symbols, emotions, and patterns, and repetition is one way to attract our attention. Constant mistakes are not evidence of weakness, but an attempt by the unconscious to convey an important truth or point to an unhealed wound. It's like a cry from the soul, demanding attention and understanding. However, instead of listening to this voice, we often drown it out with distractions and excuses. For example, constantly getting into painful relationships may be an attempt by the unconscious to reproduce unresolved situations from the past. Perhaps a person subconsciously seeks to heal old wounds or relive a past experience, hoping to change its outcome. It's not about striving for suffering, but that the psyche is stuck in an unprocessed pattern that will be repeated until it is recognized and worked through. So, what happens when we finally pay attention to these signals? What secrets will be revealed to us when we decide to listen to the voice of our unconscious? One of Carl Jung's most insightful revelations is the concept of the shadow, that hidden part of our personality that we tend to ignore or carefully conceal from others. The shadow, contrary to popular belief, is not an embodiment of evil. Rather, it represents a collection of suppressed aspects of our being, those traits and qualities that do not fit the idealized image that we strive to show the world. However, here lies the key point. The shadow does not disappear without a trace if we simply refuse to acknowledge its existence. On the contrary, it only gains strength, subtly influencing our decisions and actions, often in ways that are completely incomprehensible to us. This is why certain people cause us inexplicable irritation, or why we repeatedly find ourselves in the same unpleasant situations. Such phenomena reflect those unconscious aspects of our personality that require close attention. If you constantly repeat the same mistakes, it's not a coincidence. It's your shadow persistently signaling those parts of your personality that need healing and acceptance. Perhaps you surround yourself with people who belittle your merits because deep down you doubt your own worth. Or perhaps you are constantly in conflict with others because you have not yet learned to set healthy boundaries and stand up for your interests. Jung urged us to face our shadow not as a sign of weakness, but as an act of the greatest courage. After all, in doing so, we reclaim the power that we unconsciously gave up to our fears and old emotional wounds. Imagine that every mistake you make is actually a wise teacher, hiding behind a mask of failure. What if, instead of seeing it as an annoying mistake, you begin to see it as a valuable lesson taught by life itself? Such a change in perspective can transform not only your attitude towards yourself, but your entire way of life. As soon as you stop blaming the outside world for your failures and turn your gaze inward, those patterns that were previously invisible suddenly become crystal clear. And it is at this moment that real magic happens. These destructive patterns lose their power over you. You no longer have to repeat the same mistakes over and over again because you have finally learned the lesson they were trying to teach you. However, the difficulty lies in the fact that confronting ourselves can be incredibly scary. It is much easier to blame other people, bad luck, or plain misfortune for our troubles. After all, admitting that we are responsible for our own lives requires a degree of honesty with ourselves that not everyone is capable of. But Jung was convinced that true transformation is impossible without pain. And the point is not that pain is some kind of punishment, but that it is an integral part of the process of liberation from our own limitations. It's like cleaning a festering wound, a painful procedure, but necessary for complete healing. There are bound to have been moments in your life when it seemed like the world around you was collapsing, when a sense of loss and all-consuming chaos took over. Remember those times and ask yourself, what did you take away from these trials? What new horizons opened up after you let go of what no longer benefited you? Carl Jung, an eminent psychologist, argued that chaos is not a dead end, but rather a transition to the unknown. It is during the darkest periods of our lives that we have a unique opportunity to ignite our inner light, if we are brave enough to face our fears. When we analyze our mistakes and recurring patterns of behavior, more than just liberation from them occurs. Life begins in harmony with our true selves. Jung called this synchronicity, a phenomenon when external events perfectly match a person's internal state. This is not a random coincidence, but a confirmation that the chosen path is correct. Suddenly, the right people appear on your horizon, new perspectives open up, and it seems that the universe itself favors you. However, such correspondence becomes possible only when you decide to live in accordance with your authenticity. Authenticity is your greatest strength, but accepting it requires shedding the masks you wore to meet the expectations of a world that often demands uniformity. This process can be painful and even lead to isolation, but the reward is worth it. A life in harmony with your inner self, relationships that nourish you rather than drain you, and inner peace that does not depend on external circumstances. The next time you notice that you are repeating the same mistake, stop. Instead of self-criticism, ask yourself, what is life trying to teach me? What part of me requires attention, healing, or integration? Once you stop looking for answers outside and turn inward, you will discover something that will change everything. The power to transform your life has always been within you. When you begin to recognize recurring patterns in your life, a profound truth is revealed. Everything is interconnected. Decisions made years ago, wounds you ignored, and even dreams you gave up. All of this has shaped your reality today. But, as Carl Jung reminds us, this reality is not a predetermined fate, but a projection of your subconscious. And that means you have the power to change it. Imagine that the world around you is a huge mirror reflecting your inner state. The people you attract into your life, the problems that arise in your path, and even the missed opportunities, all of these are echoes of what is hidden in the depths of your consciousness. Acknowledging this truth can be difficult, because it means that toxic relationships, bad decisions, and failures are not the machinations of fate or the outside world, but rather an invitation to introspection and exploration of one's own soul. But there is also good news. If you have become the creator of these situations, then you have the power to change them. Carl Jung, an eminent Swiss psychiatrist and psychologist, believed that the key to overcoming recurring life scenarios lies in integration, the conscious acceptance of all aspects of one's personality, even those that seem weak, flawed, or undesirable. Every time you reject a part of yourself, you inadvertently give it more power. And the stronger this rejected part is, the more vividly it manifests itself in the form of mistakes, conflicts, and suffering. Integration is not a quick and easy process. It requires time, patience, and above all, a willingness to be honest with yourself. But the result is worth the effort. You cease to be a hostage of your habitual patterns of behavior and become the creator of your own destiny. These recurring patterns are often rooted in beliefs learned in childhood. If you grew up feeling inferior, then you are probably constantly looking for confirmation of your importance in the outside world, repeatedly finding yourself in relationships or situations where you have to prove your worth. If you have learned that the world is a dangerous place, then you may live in a state of constant anxiety and subconsciously attract events that confirm this fear. Jung urges us to question these beliefs and realize that they are not absolute truth. These are just stories that we have learned and that now define our lives, shaping our inner shadows. This is where the turning point comes. You are not the stories you were told. You are not defined by your past, mistakes, or labels imposed by other people. You are something much more, a soul with the power to write your own story, choose a new path, and create a life in harmony with your true self. The problem is that many of us are detached from our authenticity. We put on masks to meet social expectations, follow well-trodden paths, and suppress our true desires for fear of being rejected. But as Jung would say, there is a price to pay for this alienation. It manifests in repeating patterns, an inner void, and a feeling that no matter what you do, it is never enough. Authenticity is not just being yourself. It is a process of discovering who you truly are, beyond societal expectations, old wounds, and external influences. This journey is not undertaken overnight. It requires deep self-reflection, internal exploration, and above all, courage. The courage to face those parts of yourself that you have long ignored. And once you reconnect with your true self, something extraordinary happens. You begin to live from your own truth, and from that moment on, everything in your life begins to fall into place. But where does one begin this journey? How do you break the chains of patterns that seem so deeply ingrained? The answer lies in what is already within you: self-observation. Pay attention to your thoughts, emotions, and reactions. Ask yourself questions. Why did I react this way? What am I really feeling? Where does this fear or insecurity come from? These simple questions can open the door to a deep understanding of yourself and become the first step toward a new life. Embarking on the path of inner work, you gain a profound awareness. You are not alone. Every person carries their own shadows, their own patterns and struggles. By sharing your experiences, opening up from a position of authenticity, you not only heal yourself, but also inspire others to follow your example. After all, when a person decides to live in harmony with their truth, it has a ripple effect. Their light spreads and touches those around them. Carl Gustav Jung, a distinguished thinker, once remarked that the heaviest burden for the human soul is an unlived life. This profound thought means that whenever we neglect our dreams, suppress our true feelings, or choose a path foreign to our inner essence, we commit a betrayal against ourselves. However, it is important to remember that no act of self-denial is final. Even a small step toward your authenticity is of great significance. As you delve deeper into the fascinating journey of self-discovery, you realize that there are no mistakes in life, only valuable lessons. Every failure, every decision that seemed to have derailed us, is actually an invitation to look within and reevaluate our values. Jung taught us that true transformation lies not in changing the world around us, but in changing our attitude towards ourselves. After all, the world we see around us is merely a reflection of our inner world. Imagine that all the difficulties and trials you have ever experienced, every failed attempt, and every unachieved goal are not just regrettable setbacks, but rather doors leading to a deeper understanding of yourself. Each experience reveals to us a part of our personality that needs attention, love, and above all, integration. Integration, as Jung understood it, is a complex process of reuniting all aspects of our personality, even those that we once rejected or considered unacceptable, in order to achieve wholeness and harmony. But how do we achieve this integration? The first step on this path is self-observation, but not out of guilt or self-condemnation, but out of genuine curiosity about yourself. Instead of asking yourself, "Why is this happening to me again and again?" try changing your perspective and ask yourself, "What can I learn from this experience?" This seemingly minor shift in thinking can open doors you never knew existed. After all, when we begin to look at our recurring patterns of behavior with honesty and compassion, we realize that behind every struggle and difficulty lies an important message, a valuable lesson that our soul is trying to convey to us. It is important to understand that this journey of self-discovery is not straight and smooth. There will be days when you feel a surge of energy and self-confidence, when it seems that you are moving forward with clarity and purpose. But there will also be moments when you feel like you are sliding backward, as if the same old problems that you thought were in the past are haunting you again. However, even these seeming setbacks have their deep meaning. Jung emphasized that true personal growth does not occur in a straight line, but in a spiral. We move forward, then stop to reflect on our experience, and then continue on our path again, but each time with a deeper, more conscious understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Each time we encounter an old pattern of behavior, we meet it with greater awareness, wisdom, and inner strength. Over time, these repeating cycles lose their power over us. What once seemed like an insurmountable obstacle no longer controls us, and we find ourselves in situations where we can react in completely new ways, in ways we couldn't have imagined before. One of the most challenging, yet transformative aspects of this process is facing our own fears. The patterns that repeat in our lives are often closely linked to our deepest fears and anxieties. For example, the fear of being rejected can lead us to seek validation in places where we can never find it. The fear of failure can keep us in our comfort zone, forcing us to walk the same safe and familiar paths over and over again, instead of venturing into the unknown. Jung urged us to change our attitude toward fear, to see it not as an enemy, but as a valuable guide on the path to self-discovery. Behind every fear lies an unrealized desire, a suppressed part of our personality that desperately seeks liberation and self-expression. When we stop running away from our fears and instead face them head-on, something amazing happens. We realize that they were never as all-powerful as they seemed. They are like shadows on the wall, which inspire terror from afar. But when we get closer, we see that they are merely illusions, born of our imagination. By going through our fears, instead of avoiding them, we reclaim those parts of ourselves that we once suppressed or rejected. We become stronger, more authentic, and more deeply connected to our inner strength and wisdom. This amazing journey of self-discovery transforms not only your inner self, but also radically changes the nature of your interactions with the world around you. People who once caused you heartache or bitter disappointment suddenly appear in a completely different light, as if fulfilling an important mission. Instead of seeing them as annoying obstacles in your path, you begin to see them as mirrors, reflecting those aspects of your personality that still need healing and further development. Relationships that previously relentlessly drained your life force gradually dissolve, giving way to new connections that perfectly match your renewed essence. When you begin to live in complete harmony with your authentic self, your entire life undergoes dramatic changes. One of the most valuable gifts of this deep transformation is synchronicity, a phenomenon that the Swiss psychiatrist and philosopher Carl Jung considered one of the most powerful tools of cognition. Events that once seemed like absurd coincidences take on deep meaning and significance. You meet exactly the people you need at the most opportune moment. New opportunities open up before you as if by magic. Doors that seemed tightly closed suddenly swing open, and life begins to flow with an amazing ease that you could only dream of before. This is the beauty of living in complete harmony with yourself. When you trust the process of self-discovery and embrace your true self, the universe responds sensitively, guiding you along the path that was destined for you from the very beginning. This is not some mystical magic, but a natural consequence of living in accordance with your inner truth. However, to achieve this cherished goal, you must have a deep willingness to let go of the past. Letting go is not a sign of weakness, but rather an act of boundless love for yourself. It means recognizing that certain people, situations, or beliefs no longer contribute to your personal growth. It's about boldly giving up everything that holds you back and making room for what uplifts and inspires you. At first, letting go can be painful, as if you are losing a part of yourself. But in reality, it is one of the most liberating actions you will ever take. Every time you let go of something that no longer suits you, you free up space for something new, for something much better. Therefore, the logical question arises: are you ready to let go of what keeps you in repetitive, outmoded patterns of behavior? Are you ready to look inside yourself, bravely face your fears, and embrace your true essence? If your answer is yes, then you have already taken the most important first step on the path to a more fulfilling and meaningful life. And this one step, however insignificant it may seem, has enormous potential to change everything. The further you progress along this exciting path of transformation, the clearer you realize that everything you need for positive change is already within you. It's not something you can find in another person, in some course, or in a clever book. That powerful force has always been within you, just waiting for you to acknowledge and unleash it. Carl Jung once wisely observed, "What you resist persists." This means that your unresolved inner conflicts and shadow sides will invariably manifest in your life until you dare to face them. But the very moment you consciously turn your gaze upon them, your reality begins to transform. It is perfectly natural to experience resistance to change. The familiar, even if it causes pain, often seems safer and more reliable than the unknown. But what if you take that bold step anyway? What if you trust what awaits you on the other side of fear and realize that it is something far greater and more beautiful than what you are leaving behind? Jung taught us that the emptiness that arises when we let go of something is not a loss at all, but a sacred space in which something new and amazing can be born. It is like pruning a tree. By removing the dead and dry branches, you make room for fresh, vibrant shoots. The very moment you decide to let go, you reclaim your lost power. Because when you cling to what, freeing yourself from shackles, aren't you wasting precious resources, energy, time, and peace of mind on something that has outlived its usefulness? A decisive no to the outdated is a powerful signal to the subconscious mind of readiness for new horizons. And then magic happens. The universe responds as if by magic. Closed doors swing open, perspectives arise, people appear carrying important messages. Of course, the path is not strewn with roses. Difficulties are not obstacles, but stepping stones to growth. An opportunity to temper the will and remain true to oneself. Life is not a finish line, but a fascinating journey full of discoveries, lessons, and self-improvement. Doubts and fears are inevitable, but every step forward is a step closer to your true self. Transformation begins not with external changes, but with self-love. Compassion, attention to the inner voice, caring for needs, and setting boundaries are what work wonders. Relationships and circumstances incompatible with the new energy fade into the past, giving way to connections and experiences that strengthen the spirit. Jung argued that relationships are a mirror reflecting our personal growth. Every person who enters our lives brings a lesson, reveals unexplored facets of our personality. Even the most complex relationships are not accidental. They illuminate those corners of the soul that need healing and acceptance. Instead of blaming others for your own emotional reactions and torments, Carl Jung urges us to turn to the depths of self-analysis. Ask yourself a key question. What exactly am I projecting onto this relationship? What valuable lesson is hidden in this life experience? When a person takes responsibility for their destiny, driven not by guilt, but by a mighty inner force, they attain true freedom. There is no longer any need to wait for the external world to transform in order to feel happiness. Instead, there comes an awareness that true satisfaction lies not in external circumstances or specific people, but in harmonious relationships with oneself. And when these relationships are permeated with peace and authenticity, everything around begins to come into amazing harmony. Imagine for a moment how your life will transform if you live from this inner truth. If every decision you make resonates with your deepest essence, if every connection inspires you to unlock your potential, if every day becomes a genuine expression of your being, this is not a pipe dream, but a very real prospect. But it starts with a conscious choice, with the first, even small step. It can be an instantaneous stop and a deep breath, a conscious observation of your thoughts and emotions without judgment. It can be a release from a belief that no longer serves you, or setting boundaries in a relationship with someone whose energy drains you. After all, the changes we seek ultimately begin not somewhere outside, but within ourselves. The point of moving forward is not in the scale of the steps, but in the unwavering determination they symbolize, in the willingness to repeatedly make choices in favor of yourself. When life begins to flow in unison with your true essence, something truly magical happens. The pursuit of happiness becomes unnecessary because it begins to flow naturally from your inner world. Obstacles that previously seemed insurmountable suddenly become quite surmountable. People whose actions once caused pain lose their power over your emotions. Opportunities that you could only dream of, as if by magic, arise on your life path. That's the transformative power of reconnecting with yourself, in accepting your dark sides, assimilating life's lessons, and following your inner truth. It's not about striving for unattainable perfection or having answers to everything, but about being utterly honest with yourself, extracting wisdom from personal experience and moving forward boldly, relying on self-belief. On this path, you realize that the main challenge is not the surrounding world, but your own inner cosmos. Encountering recurring patterns of behavior that have haunted you is not a punishment, but a compass pointing the way to an even more authentic version of yourself. Each repetition of a mistake is like a quiet whisper from the subconscious. You haven't learned this lesson yet. And while it may be annoying, it's also a valuable gift, a chance for growth, development, and ascension to your higher self. Imagine that every trial sent to you by fate is not a failure, but a disguised treasure. Failed. Relationships, unsatisfying work, or internal struggles that seem endless are not random blows of fate, but elements of a large-scale puzzle, carefully arranged by your own psyche to lead you to a deeper understanding of yourself. As the great Jung taught, nothing happens by chance. Everything, absolutely everything, has its meaning and significance. The question is, do you have the courage to listen to yourself, discard the usual accusations against others or fateful circumstances, and look deep into your own eye? This journey to yourself doesn't promise to be a walk in the park. At first, you may feel defenseless, overwhelmed by doubts, or even lost in the labyrinth of your own thoughts. But it is in this seeming vulnerability that the inexhaustible source of your strength lies. After all, When you dare to openly experience your emotions, when you stop suppressing feelings or ignoring the inner voice of intuition, you begin to reconnect with your true essence. Unfortunately, many of us have been taught from childhood to shut ourselves off from our experiences, as the world persistently suggests that vulnerability is a sign of weakness. However, the famous psychologist Jung held a different point of view, arguing that vulnerability is the key to authenticity. It is in those moments of sincerity, when you drop the mask and stop performing for the public, that your true strength manifests. There is nothing more powerful than living in harmony with your authentic I. However, this path of self-discovery is not strewn with roses. The deeper you delve into your inner world, the clearer you realize that some people or situations no longer correspond to your life path. This realization can be painful, as it entails saying goodbye to the past. But remember, you are not losing anything valuable. You are simply making room for new relationships and experiences that will resonate with your personal growth. This is a kind of cleansing process, getting rid of everything that hinders your development in order to welcome into your life what inspires and elevates you. And when you finally let go of what is no longer meant for you, something truly magical happens. Your inner energy changes. Your perception of the world transforms. You stop dwelling on what you lack and begin to appreciate what you already have. And this fundamental change in perspective affects not only your emotional state, but also shapes the reality you attract into your life. The universe seems to mirror your inner growth, sending you people and opportunities that correspond to your newfound clarity. However, it is worth understanding that the life path is not a perfectly smooth highway. Inevitably, there will be days when it seems that there is no progress, and doubts and fears will try to paralyze movement forward. And this is absolutely normal, because such experiences are an integral part of any development. As Carl Jung noted, genuine personal growth is impossible without encountering one's own shadow, without going through periods of internal chaos. It is in moments of seeming disorder that clarity is often born, and long-awaited answers to tormenting questions come. Imagine your life as a river. Sometimes its waters carry you smoothly and serenely, but then obstacles arise in the way, sharp stones, turbulent rapids, or even steep waterfalls. These trials are given not to stop the flow, but to temper you, to teach you how to cope with life's currents, confidently respond to surprises, and discover new horizons. Problems will arise again and again, and yes, sometimes this path will seem exhausting, but each overcome obstacle brings you closer to your true destiny. At a certain point, you will realize an important truth. You are not alone in your experiences. Every person faces internal challenges and struggles with recurring patterns of behavior. While everyone's life paths diverge, there's a universal quality uniting us in the process of self-discovery. Ultimately, it's not about achieving perfection, but about living mindfully, consistently choosing oneself, embracing what imbues life with meaning and fosters growth. This is the essence of authentic transformation. When an individual shares their deepest experiences with genuine openness and honesty, profound connections form, transcending superficial interactions. Sincerity possesses a remarkable ability to ripple outwards. When even one person finds the courage to live in alignment with their inner truth, they inadvertently inspire others to do the same. The transformation within an individual extends beyond their personal sphere, influencing the world around them. Decisions made, inner energy cultivated, and the way one interacts with society all hold immense power to ignite positive change in their environment. Initially, this journey may seem like a solitary quest, a personal process affecting only the individual. However, inner shifts have a far greater impact than initially perceived. This journey lacks a predetermined destination or singular enlightenment. It is rather an ongoing practice, a lifelong commitment to self-awareness, personal development, and the relentless pursuit of inner truth. Each new day presents opportunities for learning, growth, and drawing closer to one's authentic self. While this path can be arduous, filled with doubts and challenges, it's also punctuated by moments of profound realization, inner peace, and an inextricable connection to the universe. The journey inward, the path to self-discovery, may not be the easiest, but it is undoubtedly the most important. With each step forward, each fear overcome, and each limitation shed, one moves closer to their true essence. And while this may be perceived as a purely personal adventure, by transforming one's inner self, one inevitably alters the reality around them. As Carl Jung stated, there is no greater transformation than that which begins within us, as what we carry inside inevitably shapes the world around us. Consider for a moment what would happen if each of us dared to confront our inner demons, shed the shackles of outdated habits, and begin to live in absolute sincerity. The effect would be colossal and all-encompassing. And here begins your role. The inner work you undertake, the discoveries that propel you to grow, are not merely for personal gain. They are like seeds sown for a future harvest that will benefit the entire world. Your personal transformation can be the spark that ignites in someone else the desire to embark on a path of self-discovery, to delve into the depths of their soul, and to begin their own process of awakening. Change doesn't happen instantaneously. It's a gradual process, but every step, even the smallest, holds immense significance. Every conscious effort to overcome ingrained habits, every farewell to what no longer serves you, brings you closer to the life that is uniquely meant for you.